politics. The Donald Trump campaign trying to nail down the Republican nominee's message as critics point out that his inconsistencies are present on immigration. Today, his team hit the Sunday shows and worked to clarify his message. Campaign manager Kellyanne Conway adding Trump will be ready when it's time to hit the debate stage.
He's an unconventional candidate, and he's not going to prepare the way Hillary does. The authentic Donald Trump, who's been taking his case directly to the voters, is the one that you will see on the debate stage with Hillary Clinton. And I think they're nervous over in Clinton camp because he's the unpredictable X factor.
We have Fox team coverage now. Garrett Tenney is following the push for the nominee's health records, and Brian Yanis is on the latest on those Clinton pay-for-play allegations to do with the Clinton Foundation. First, though, we'll begin with Kristen Fisher, live in Washington, D.C., with more from the Trump campaign. Kristen, several Trump surrogates were asked about his immigration policy today. Did we get any clarity?
Harris, we got some clarity, but not on the question that everyone wants an answer to, and that is, does Donald Trump still support the use of a deportation force? You know, earlier this week, Trump said that he was open to softening his stance. Then yesterday, he seemed to harden back up a bit by promising to deport criminal illegal immigrants within 1 hour of swearing in. So today, Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, explained that softening as, quote, more approach than policy. She says he wants to find a fair and humane way to deal with the 11 million illegal immigrants living in the United States, but she still wouldn't say if that includes the use of a deportation force.
What you seem to be saying is you're leaving the door open that President Trump would consider the possibility of giving people who have not committed more crimes to living in this country legally.
What he has said is no legalization and no amnesty.
Now, Trump has already postponed 2 speeches where he was planning on really digging into the details of his immigration policy. Now we're told that it'll happen sometime over the next 2 weeks. Harris.
Kristen, I want to ask you about something. The other issue that every Trump surrogate was asked about today was Trump's response to the murder of NBA star Dwayne Wade's cousin in Chicago. How are they talking about it?
Well, in case you missed the tweet that caused all the controversy, right after Dwayne Wade's cousin was murdered, Trump posted on Twitter, quote, Dwayne Wade's cousin was just shot and killed walking her baby in Chicago. Just what I have been saying, African Americans will vote Trump. Well, Trump's critics are accusing him of politicizing a tragedy, but his running mate, Mike Pence, is defending him by saying this.
Donald Trump is laying out in that tweet in short form, and there's, 140 characters, that we have a choice to make as a country. We can continue with the leadership that has left us with dangerous streets in our cities, failing schools, no jobs, or we can go with someone who is committed to educational choice for minority families.
Up next for Trump, tomorrow he's off to a fundraiser in California, then Washington State, and on Wednesday he'll be in Arizona, but he'll be speaking about party unity, not immigration, even though he will be very close to our southern border. Harris.
And Kristen Fisher, thank you very much. And just to continue on with that story, there were arrests in that murder, and we'll have more on that later this hour. We're going to go on now with our Fox team coverage in politics with the Democrats. Hillary Clinton fighting allegations that her family's foundation and her government work were connected in some problematic ways. Brian Yanis is in our network's newsroom, and part of the problem, I understand, Brian, for Clinton is that she said she handed over all the emails she had outside of the ones that she had deleted, thousands of those. At this hour, the evidence would show otherwise.
Good evening, Harris. That's right. Newly obtained emails by Citizens United, a conservative group, show what they claim is more new evidence proving Hillary Clinton's State Department gave special access and favors to Clinton Foundation donors while she was Secretary of State. The emails first published by ABC News show communications between top Clinton aide Uma Abedin and top Clinton Foundation official Doug Band, in which the foundation requests invitations for guests to a State Department lunch with Chinese President Hu Jintao in January 2011. Those guests donated millions to the Clinton Foundation. There was also a special request to have one of the executives sit at Vice President Joe Biden's table. All three executives have not said whether they attended this lunch. And the State Department last week said there was nothing illegal about State Department officials having contact with Clinton Foundation staff. And in a statement to Fox News, a Clinton campaign spokesman said, quote, today, State also made clear that department officials are in touch with a wide range of outside individuals, organizations, nonprofits, NGOs, think tanks, and others as part of normal business. Citizens United is a right-wing group that's been attacking the Clintons since the 1990s and once again is trying to make something out of nothing. This, of course, comes after an Associated Press investigation found that half the people outside the government who Clinton met with during her tenure as secretary had given money to the Clinton Foundation. Harris.
Problematic indeed. And I know that my Southern relatives say you hit a nerve when you get people to respond. So apparently Hillary Clinton's running mate was responding to Donald Trump's outreach now to the black community.
Yesterday, Harris, Senator Tim Kaine said he does not think that Donald Trump's recent African-American outreach is serious. He also clarified comments he made Friday where he said to an almost entirely black audience that Trump is pushing Ku Klux Klan values.
I didn't say that, but what I said yesterday, what I said was he's got guys connected with the Ku Klux Klan who are out there claiming him. And his record of, you know, sometimes he doesn't disabuse that, and sometimes he seems to want to take advantage of that. And I find that very troubling.
Mrs. Clinton has no public events until Wednesday in Cincinnati, Ohio. Harris?
Brian, thank you. In politics again, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are pressuring each other to release their medical records at ages 70 and 68, respectively. There are concerns among some voters about the nominee's physical abilities to serve as president of the United States. Trump says Clinton hasn't done enough to prove she's healthy, but his critics say Trump's own disclosures, including a brief letter from his doctor, fall short compared to releases from past nominees. Garrett Tinney has more.
The health of both presidential candidates is a notable issue this election. If Donald Trump wins in November, he will be the oldest president ever elected. If Clinton wins, she will become the second oldest candidate, just behind Ronald Reagan. Both are not as forthcoming with their medical histories compared to previous candidates, but Donald Trump is continuing to go after Clinton on the issue.
She doesn't have the strength, the stamina, or the ability to straighten out our country.
The Clinton campaign has responded with multiple statements saying she is in excellent health and that Trump has, quote, failed to provide the public with the most basic financial information disclosed by every major candidate in the last 40 years. It's time for him to stop using shameful distractions to hide his own record. Trump's attacks on Clinton's health are raising questions about his own disclosures as well, particularly the 4-paragraph letter his personal doctor released in December, which had few actual details, but memorably lauded Trump's physical strength, stamina, and declared Trump would be the healthiest individual ever elected president. And current Trump advisor Dr. Ben Carson is calling on both candidates to release a more detailed medical history. Trump's campaign says they'll release those records as soon as Clinton does. The Clinton campaign says it has no plans to do that anytime soon. Harris.
And around we go, Garrett, thank you. The Fox News political insiders will break down all the political headlines at the bottom of the hour, as they do every Sunday. And don't miss my interview with Eric Trump's wife, Lara. We talk about the nominee's outreach to women as well as what it's like to be part of the Trump family. I'm Harris Faulkner. You're watching the Fox Report. At least that much could happen. We're watching it. We'll update you as we can. Donald Trump's adult children have played a big role in his campaign thus far. And now one of their wives is stepping in at a time when things have gotten pretty nasty. Lara Trump, who's married to Eric Trump, says she can take it. And she has a very specific role, a job to do, she says. She hit the trail today, rolling out the National Diversity Coalition for Trump in Leesburg, Virginia. A crowd of mostly women, moms, and people of color, she says, who need to hear about the Donald Trump that she knows. That's her role. Here's our talk as she was about to take the stage a couple of hours ago.
It's a great event here in Leesburg. Moms for Trump, Women for Trump, and Minorities for Trump. And I'm lucky to be here today with Lynn Patton, who a lot of people might remember from the RNC. And, you know, we're just here to talk about Donald Trump and the man that we know and really speak to women. There are a lot of women that are excited to be here tonight and to hear from us. So it's really an honor to be here.
Maybe you can talk to me a little bit about how the Trump campaign is putting women's issues, moms' issues forefront at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I think that women and people in our country in general are very concerned with national security. You know, a lot of women are moms, and Donald Trump has been very clear that he's going to keep this country safe. He wants a child care deduction. He wants to make it easier for women to be moms and for people to be parents in general. So I know that has been a big focus. Ivanka has been very helpful on that. And in general, he wants to lower taxes and put people back to work. And I think it's fair to say that everybody in our country can benefit from that, and families and moms in general as well.
You know, it's because of you today, Laura, that we're all kind of learning about the National Diversity Coalition for Trump and how it's not just about being women or people of color, but it's all of that together. You know, politics, no matter where you are in the campaign trail, as I'm sure you know, are part of everything. Maybe you can talk with me a little bit about some of the criticism for Donald Trump and how this maybe answers back to that.
Well, look, I think the criticisms for Donald Trump are a lot of things are manufactured. I can't tell you how many people come up to me. I just met with some of our great volunteers and an Indian man saying, I have so many of my family and friends that want to support Donald Trump. We want to have a big event. They're very excited. So, you know, a lot of what you hear, I think, is all hearsay. Donald Trump has always had the support of the African-American community, and I think you're seeing it grow now. And in fact, he has more support at this point than Mitt Romney and John McCain had at this point in their campaign. So I think we're on a great path.
Talk to me a little bit about the women that are in the campaign, kind of behind the scenes, the strong women.
Well, look, Kellyanne Conway obviously speaks for all of us. She's amazing. She's doing a great job. I think she's the first woman in her position in any campaign in history. So we're all really excited to have her on board. I'm happy to speak for my father-in-law. I'm a native North Carolinian. I'm going to do a lot in North Carolina to convey to the people down there why I think they should vote for Donald Trump. And, you know, he's got a lot of great women surrounding him. He doesn't care if you're a man or a woman. He just wants to hear, you know, from you, your opinion, bar none. So he's got a lot of great people around him.
Well, I want to share with our audience a couple things I learned about you. First and foremost, you're a runner, marathoner, and you've run the New York City Marathon a couple of times. We were talking before this interview that you're going to draw upon those stamina skills to get through the campaign trail. I would have to imagine it's tough to hear when you're out there, though. So it's gotten kind of nasty, and I want to know how you deal with that, because you're new to all of this.
Yeah, we're all very new to all of this. We're all getting a very fast education in politics. Look, it's hard to hear people say things about someone you care about and somebody that you know is doing this for the right reasons. This is the most brutal job interview in the world, to run for president of the United States. And Donald Trump is doing this at a time when he could basically be retired, but he saw a problem with this country and wanted to give back to a country who has given him everything, a great family, a great business. It's allowed him to really be the epitome of the American dream. And so, you know, for all the negative that I hear out there, I know the truth behind this man, and I know he's doing this for the right reason. So you got to take it all with a grain of salt.
Well, that's a great attitude to have. You know, I know that you've got the Moms for Trump that are a big part of today's coalition that you're getting together with. You're going to take the stage to speak. First of all, what are you going to tell the audience? What are you focused on?
Well, I sort of want to tell the audience about myself, about the fact that, look, I'm a girl from North Carolina. I came from a middle-class family. My parents are small business owners and always have been. So I understand the struggles of most Americans. And I want them to know me a little bit, and then I want to tell them about the man that I know, Donald Trump, a good man, a man with a good heart, a man that is, again, doing this for the right reasons, because he truly knows that he can do what's best for this country. He wants to put people back to work. He wants to secure our borders. And, you know, just from my perspective, I want to be able to convey that to them.
All right. I know you're also going to be joined on stage by Lynn Patton. She's the vice president of your husband's foundation. And so the two of you together will lead this today. What do you think is one of the big obstacles or challenges for women right now?
Well, I think, you know, all women, as I said before, want to see our country secure. I don't care if you're a mom or you're a working woman or you're in college. I think we all want to know that our country is safe. These are very serious times, and we have to know that we have a leader who is going to do that for us. As a woman, you know, I would love to see a female president one day. I certainly do not want that to be Hillary Clinton. I think she would do very poorly for women and just for the women's movement forward in our country in general. But I just think women and Americans all together want to know that we're safe, that we're going to turn our country around. We're at a point where we really have to make a decision what direction we're heading in this country, and I think Donald Trump is going to do the best job for us.
You know, I know you got married just a couple of years ago, so you still have what I call the bride's new car smell. So congrats on that. I also know that you don't have to do this. Like, this is your new family. If you wanted to sit back and be supportive behind the scenes, you could do that. Why put yourself out there?
Well, look, I even took 2 months off of my job to do this. This is the most important election of most of our lives. And I think that we have an opportunity right now to turn around the direction of our country. And if I can change the way that people see Donald Trump and show them the man that he really is, the good-hearted man that really wants to put our country first, put Americans first, then, you know, I'm happy to take any criticisms I get. And as you said, it's going to be a marathon, but I think we're all in this because we know that this has to be done.
Real quickly, you said you want to change the way people see Donald Trump. How do you think they see him, rather?
Well, I think if you watch mainstream media, you get a certain view of Donald Trump, and I think they pull little pieces out of speeches and blow it out of proportion and try and make him out to be a guy that he's not. And again, he's a good man. He's got a great heart. He loves his family. He loves his country. And he is doing this because he wants to see our country be the best country in the world in perpetuity.
Lara Trump, thank you so very much. Have a great event with all the women in Leesburg, Virginia. Have fun, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump is already making more news. He made headlines when he delayed what he called his major speech on immigration right at a time when there were so many questions about, well, his immigration plan. Now he's set a date. We're coming back.
Every 15 minutes, Fox News headlines 24/7, channel 115.
Many of you hitting our Fox News social media pages told me this as we were all tweeting together. We saw Donald Trump tweeted during that interview that he will be making a major speech on illegal immigration on Wednesday in Arizona. He added big crowds looking for a larger venue at this point. The Fox News political insiders are here. Doug Schoen, former pollster for President Bill Clinton, and a Fox News contributor, John LeBoutelier, former Republican congressman for New York, and Pat Cadell, a former pollster for President Jimmy Carter and Fox News contributor. All right, John, I want to come to you quickly first because Trump took so much criticism when it looked like he was changing gears, softening, even by his own words, ready to soften his language on illegal immigration. What needs to be in the speech?
Well, I think it would help if he would clarify what exactly his position is so that it's not the news every day that he is changing or appears to be changing. Because here's what happened last week. A spate of bad news about Hillary, the emails, the foundation. That should have been the whole news all week. But once again, the Trump campaign, by its own actions, stepped on the big story of Hillary. And I think it hurt them a little bit.
Interesting. Doug, I want to come to you out in sunny Tucson, Arizona, although it feels like you're still here with us, warm in our hearts.
Thank you.
What happens when a candidate decides to delay a major speech on policy? Are they looking to sharpen a message? Are they taking some polling to see what will work? What happens behind the scenes?
All of that happens, Harris. What's happened in this case, I think, is that Donald Trump knew that he had to move away from the position of I'm going to deport 11 million people, I'm going to have a deportation force. But with the delay, the problem has been that the questions that John raised about what's his position, is he flip-flopping, is out there. And we've been talking for many months, Pat in particular, about how this has to be an insider-outsider message. And if Trump is flip-flopping, it takes away from the sharpness of his message and the cogency of his argument.
Pat?
Well, I think that this is the problem of the campaign in transition. You would have wanted to make this change on immigration, I would think, weeks and weeks ago. I mean, at least begin to modify it. There's a way to do it. Just like John said, problem is it knocks off now when the weeks start becoming precious. knocks you off your message of what you should be on. And you have to remember, when the media is so on such a jihad against Trump, anything he does will be magnified and blown out of proportion. I mean, talk about flip-flopping. His opponent has made changes in about 100 different positions during the course of the campaign, but nothing is said about it. They need to understand that they will always be put in this box, and therefore how you do these things is important because they are taking the pressure off of her. And I keep saying, the more that, if this is a candidate-to-candidate race, which is what the Clinton people are begging for, and they're worried because the polls are closing and it's getting closer. Well, that race is to her benefit. What benefits Trump is a race of a referendum on where the country is and where it is not, where it should be.
All right, so here's a question that I asked a Democrat whom I interviewed last week, and she said she did not know. So you're tearing Donald Trump down, Hillary Clinton, for the things he said about illegal immigration, and now it looks like he's flip-flopping, blah, 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 blah. What is her actual policy on immigration? And I asked one of our Democrat guests, and she didn't seem to know. She said, well, she doesn't have to talk about it because she loves amnesty.
I think she's got the Obama position.
No, she's further than Obama. Remember, she said...
My point is, she also hasn't given a major speech on immigration. Go ahead, Doug.
And she's not going to. Trust me, Harris. Because for her, she sees that there are more votes to be lost in it than to be won. And what Pat was saying is exactly the Clinton strategy. Keep personalizing the campaign, attack Donald Trump, and make this a referendum on him. Because a referendum on him, she will win, and referendum on her, she could lose. Pat alluded to the fact that the polls are now tightening, while Hillary is ahead in every swing state and virtually every national poll. It nonetheless is the case that things are getting tighter, and it is because this is a change election with two unpopular candidates.
Gosh, I hear you saying that, and it almost sounds like you're saying, as Mr. Trump weighs into the deeper end of the issues, she'd rather attack him than come up with policies?
But she can't come up with a policy that's credible. The problem for her is people, I saw this in the Quinnipiac polls and others, they don't believe what she says anyway about her positions. They figure she'll say whatever she needs to get elected. Her thing is she wants to say, I'm competent, I have experience, he doesn't, he's dangerous, vote for me. But anything that takes away from that hurts her. She does not have the ground to move. She cannot become an insurgent. And Trump is the insurgent, and it's difficult if you're not playing your best card.
Harris, I agree with that, Pat, but here's the problem with Trump. And Kellyanne's trying to fix it. I don't blame her. But there are two campaigns there. There's Hillary against Trump, and there's Trump against Trump. And until he settles that thing down to get the focus back on Hillary, he's not going to make it.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because arguably he is doing that, right? With all of these changes he made and all these voices, new voices.
$100 million from Hillary against Trump unanswered on TV, which so far has made it big.
That's an interesting point. Okay, we're coming right back. Stay close. Foundation in mind. There's smoke, but it doesn't mean there's fire. Would somebody school me scientifically on what else causes smoke besides an incendiary device?
Well, nothing. But there is fire. And we now have 71 days left in this campaign. And I would like to know, Pat, Doug, and I, for months, a year ago it was, Martin, our producer, did a special here about the Peter Schweitzer book, Clinton Cash. And there are specific instances documented in there of favors the Hillary State Department did for people in return for donations to the foundation, including the uranium deal, where the Russians ended up getting almost 100%, right, Pat, of uranium from America, and the guy that did it gave a huge donation to the Clinton Foundation. Here's what ought to happen. The Trump campaign ought to take each one of these, make a TV commercial about it, run the commercial all over the place, and he should talk about it for days on end, over and over, and then the next week do another instance, the Haiti deal, the cell phone deal. There's all these deals that the Clintons did. The media is never going to talk about it, so the campaign has to.
The media is covering up on all of this. We forget that both Haiti and the uranium deal were covered by the Washington Post and the New York Times over a year ago when they then stopped covering Hillary Clinton. I watched today reporters on the morning show saying, oh, I don't think there's anything there. There's plenty there. They're saying, oh, there's no smoking gun. There are smoking cannons here. The only thing missing is they didn't put, oh, by the way, here's the deal on an email. But there is enough for criminal prosecution when, like, let me give you a small one, the Swedish company that was under sanction for its dealings with Iran, they paid Bill Clinton $500,000. The State Department removes the sanction. What do you think that is? Do you think that just happens by coincidence? No. But John's right. You have to lay these things out. She is very vulnerable.
And that's what's not happening. That's why Secretary Clinton
is going to run. You must be very thankful that that's not happening.
Very thankful, very pleased. They're all over the lot. They're flip-flopping on immigration. They're doing different kinds of rallies. They don't have a disciplined and focused message. If Pat or John or I were in the Trump campaign, which none of us are, we would be focusing like a laser on the two issues and two themes that John and Pat just talked about.
Wow.
But as a Clinton supporter, I can tell you, if I was in the room, you asked about that before, I would say, look, we can't defend all this. If we have to defend this, we could lose an election with tightening polls, as Robbie Mook has said today in an email just sent to core supporters. So there's going to be more money, more negative ads to make this a race about Donald Trump so that it's a referendum on him. Best chance for Hillary to win.
My Twitter machine just lit up. We'll get final thoughts and more coming up. Stay close. Final thoughts with the Fox News political insiders. John, finish your thought.
I am so frustrated to watch this race, Harris, because to me, Hillary is so beatable. And the fact that Trump can't get ahead of her, can't beat her, it's the case, the whole picture.
But it is tightening.
A little bit, but it's political malpractice, this thing. They've fumbled away so many opportunities to beat her.
Pat, I don't want to miss the opportunity. The polling, what do you think of it right now where we are?
Who knows? It's closing right now. It's tight. But I wanted to make another comment, which was about Dr. Plouffe this morning, who was the man from Uber, who appeared, the former Obama campaign manager, described Donald Trump as a psychopath on Meet the Press, and was then interviewed on his credentials. I assume this is the Uber corporate position, is that they should tell Trump riders that your candidate is a psychopath.
Wow.
Unbelievable
He's
stuff.
hanging out a shingle.
Only in this election, and the polls,
I thought what Plouffe said about...
You're going to have to forgive me. We've got just a few seconds.
The Trump campaign is revealing plans to hold events in African-American communities as the Republican nominee looks to make up lost ground with minority voters.
Nothing means more to me than working to make our party the home of the African-American vote once again. Used to be. There are millions and millions of African-Americans in this country who have succeeded so greatly and who deserve a government that protects and honors their incredible contribution.
So let's bring in Democratic strategist Holly Schulman. She's a former spokesperson for both the DNC and the Obama campaign, and Deneen Borelli, the chief political correspondent for Conservative Review and a Fox News contributor. Welcome to both of you.
Hello, Patty.
So Trump says most inner cities have been run for decades by Democrats, and he says they've run them into the ground. High crime, poverty, high unemployment. Holly, Trump says politicians like Obama and Clinton say sympathetic things that appeal to minorities, but their actions have in fact harmed communities of color. How do you react to that?
You know, Democrats have been trying all along to do things like raise the minimum wage, make college more affordable, and Republicans have put roadblocks in their path. That said, you know, what Donald Trump said, he's going to do some outreach. I think we can all agree that that's a good thing. I'm sure my counterpart across the aisle would agree with that, too. But 50% of the battle is showing up, but that means that there's another 50%, and that's saying what specifically you're going to do to help. He hasn't had a plan for making college more affordable. He says that he wants to abolish the minimum wage some days he wants to raise it, but other days he thinks that it's too high already. Equal pay, which is another issue facing these communities. You know, what do you do to help on the pay gap? Hillary Clinton has a plan. Donald Trump has no plan. And so I think that he can talk until he's blue in the face, but until he has the policies that will support it, we're not not getting very far here.
Janine, Trump says he'll create jobs for African Americans. A Harvard professor who focuses on race said to Reuters, general cluelessness about racial dynamics will diminish any possible black support that could come from Trump's emphasis on job creation. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, Patty Ann, Donald Trump is doing what Republican politicians have failed to do, and that is outreach to black voters. Donald Trump is looking to empower individuals through pro-growth solutions, and that means cutting taxes, that means pro-energy programs, that means reducing regulations. All of these incentives will help job creation in our country, but especially in urban communities that have been harmed for many, many years due to the failures of progressive policies. You look at the high taxes, the high regulations, and high energy prices. Hillary Clinton presidency, for example, she wants to continue President Obama's war on fossil fuels. That harms all hardworking Americans, and it especially harms black families who are disproportionately harmed because of high energy prices and average lowest incomes.
Holly, you know, there are people who say a rising tide lifts all boats, and if Trump is the one who can improve the economy, that the lives of African Americans will be better across the board. What about that?
You know, I think that there is a question here about how do we make sure everyone shares in prosperity. But what I see Trump proposing is the same failed trickle-down policies of the past that hurt the economy and failed the middle class. And that's exactly what my counterpart just said, is that he wants to lower taxes on corporations, by the way, is what his plan does. He wants to lower taxes on millionaires like himself, is what his plan says it will do. So when you look at the specifics of Trump's plan, he's not actually helping everyone share in this economy, and that's exactly what Hillary Clinton has promised her campaign will be about, has proposed policies and very specific ones to help, and I think that we'll see that
Trump is
that
looking
lifts
to
up everyone
lower
together.
Corporate tax rates, do away with the death tax. That helps families, especially families with small businesses. Lowering taxes means more money for companies to reinvest, to invest in technology and businesses, and also to employ people. So lower taxes is good for Americans, and especially as we're talking about black Americans, is good for the black community as well.
You know, critics of both candidates are accusing the other of pandering to the black community. Holly, what about that? Is there some patronizing going on here?
You know, I think the main question when he asks, you know, what do you have to lose, right? That's a famous quote from last week. You know, the question is, what do people have to gain? And so I don't think that he's put a positive vision forward, and I think that that's really the issue here. But, you know, like we saw from the RNC just after the election 4 years ago, they put out a report, and they themselves said that Republicans need to do more to reach out to people, organizations like the NAACP. Trump should speak there, right? Republican candidates, no matter who they are, should be focused on this outreach. And now we're 70 days to the election, and there's a lot of catch-up to do on the other side. And so obviously they haven't taken their own advice to heart, and we'll see how that goes for them.
NAACP, they oppose school choice, for example. You look at disadvantaged black children in urban communities, the NAACP does not want them. They stand for union support more than the support for disadvantaged black children to get a great education so that they can have a good future and not get involved in dubious activities in order to support themselves.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Janine, Holly, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now turning our focus to a key battleground state in the race for the White House, and that is Ohio. You know, it's especially critical for Donald Trump because no Republican has ever won the White House without winning the Buckeye State. And according to a Mammoth University poll, he's got some ground to make up there. Take a look. Mrs. Clinton leads Mr. Trump 43 to 39%, while 10% of the state's likely voters back Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson, and fewer than 1%, as you can see there, support Green Party candidate Jill Stein. But, you know, the gap between Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton is narrower there than in some other swing states. Jay Shabria joins us. He's a Republican strategist, managing director of Mercury, LLC, and a former senior advisor to the current Ohio governor, John Kasich. Jay, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
You're in Columbus right now, and a headline in the Columbus Dispatch quotes your former boss, the governor, saying that he, quote, now gives Trump a chance to win Ohio. You know, the governor boycotted Trump. He refused to even step foot in the convention. Why has his thinking about the Trump candidacy somewhat changed?
Well, I don't think his thinking on the Trump candidacy has changed. I mean, his point all along is that Donald Trump hasn't had a vision for this country, a positive vision for this country, which is what so many voters yearn for. You can't just be against something. You also have to be for something, too. And Donald Trump has to learn how to talk to the entire state. We have a very diverse state. The reason Ohio is a swing state is because we've got everything. We've got farmers, we've got urban, we've got suburban, and you have to be able to talk to all kinds of voters. And I don't think that John Kasich's position on that's changed. He's just reflecting the fact that Ohio is a swing state and things always are close here.
Well, before he didn't think that he would win, but why does he now say, do you think it's possible that Mr. Trump could pull it off? He's not that far away from Mrs. Clinton, who was going to be there on Wednesday.
Well, I mean, again, I think we're reading too much into one quote from John Kasich where he said that things are possible. Elections are always, any candidate can win an election here in the state. It just depends on what's going to happen close by. Now, I will tell you this, that Donald Trump starts off at a major deficit here. He has clearly demonstrated that he is not able to reach voters all across the state. And there's another thing that we have to remember, too. We don't have election day in Ohio. We have an election month. We have 29 days of early voting. So people say there's plenty of time to turn the ship around, but early voting starts just around the corner. There's another number that I would look at.
Is there any indication how the early voting is going? I mean, I've been in Ohio, Cuyahoga County, for each presidential election. And that ground game, man, oh man, as you know, President Obama kept those offices open all throughout the state, all through the 8 years that he was president, at least up until 2012. And that really made a difference, especially in Cleveland.
Well, early voting hasn't started yet, but certainly the ground game and the war between the two campaigns has. The Hillary campaign's been here for a long time. The Trump campaign has just gotten a late start here. They've hired some good people recently, and the Ohio Republican Party's done a great job, but there's no doubt there's a deficit there. And also, the other thing that I'd be worried about, too, is the data analytics campaign, where the Trump campaign seemed to say that that's not as important, and the Hillary campaign has been here.
What do you mean by that, the data analytics? Describe that. Explain it.
Well, when we're talking about a close state, something where it could be 2, 3, 4 points, those voters, when you're really targeting people and for the turnout game, is really important. I know that the Hillary campaign's on top of it. I'm not sure that the Trump campaign has much of a data analytics program here in the state or anywhere in the country. So that's going to be something that we watch on Election Day.
So what do you think is going to happen?
Well, right now, I think that Trump is well behind. One statistic that I would talk about that's really important, in my opinion, is that Donald Trump is polling at about 80 to 85% amongst Republicans. Hillary Clinton is polling at 95% of Democrats. What that allows her to do is she can go on the offense. She can start taking some of those disaffected Republicans. And I think what you're seeing with her race speech last week is trying to go after people, especially the suburban women. That's where I would look at on Election Day. What's going to happen in Ohio is the suburban women that voted for Romney, that voted for Trump. Are they going to stay at home? Are they going to hold their nose and vote for Hillary Clinton? Or are they going to bite the bullet and vote for Donald Trump?
And finally, quickly,
2 of those 3 outcomes are bad for Trump.
Oh, you think he can make it up?
Well, anyone can make it up, but waiting for a WikiLeaks explosion is not the best campaign strategy. I think he's softened his stance on immigration, which obviously helps, but it may be too little too late.
All right, well, we'll see. It's being a major force all these years, especially up in Cuyahoga County. Jay, we thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Fox News Channel, of course. Patty Ann?
The Clinton Foundation taking steps this week to avoid any potential conflicts of interest should Hillary Clinton be elected president this fall. The organization announcing plans for both Hillary and Bill Clinton to step down from their roles should that happen. Their daughter Chelsea, however, is planning to stay on the board. Hillary Clinton says it will take some time to shift the leadership of the Clinton Foundation to other parties.
You don't just turn on and off and on switch. Even trying to negotiate with partner groups takes a lot of serious effort. Here's what we're going to make sure of, that the good work that these programs are doing continues. I know the foundation is looking for partners, but that's going to take some time to carry out.
All right, David Avella is the chairman of GOPAC and a GOP strategist, and Mark Levine is a radio show talk host. Thank you both for joining us.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
So Mrs. Clinton says the foundation is linked to numerous partner groups. It will take time and individual negotiations for each partner to find the right fit. And Mrs. Clinton is not stepping down unless and until she wins the election. And that leaves open the possibility that people seeking influence could hurry up and get in their donations now. Mark, should moves to spin off parts of the foundation have begun sooner to avoid such conflicts?
Well, you got to remember how much good the foundation does. I mean, this is half of all adults with AIDS and 3/4 of children with AIDS all over the globe get their medications because of the Clinton Foundation. It helps 430 million people worldwide, 18 million American students, everything from child obesity to women's getting equal pay. I mean, this is something that's a major, major operation that does a lot of good. So, you know, George Bush Sr. didn't shut down his foundation raising money for his library when his son became president of the United States. And I think that I understand why they're shutting it down, to avoid any kind of appearance. But let's not pretend there's anything really wrong with it.
Well, David, as you know, this is a controversy because of the accusations that Mrs. Clinton, while she was Secretary of State, sold access to her office in exchange for donations to the foundation. The latest batch of released emails from the State Department shows that big donors from non-government agencies appear to have been rewarded with access to Mrs. Clinton at the very least, and that access might have led to other benefits. Let's see how the DNC chair is defending that on CBS News. David, is that true? You can't call it a quid pro quo unless someone gives you cash and says, I want to buy a meeting? Isn't pay for play usually more subtle than that?
We don't know what was said in those meetings. That's why we can't tell whether it's paid or played, despite what Donna Brazile just said. Look, the Clinton Foundation underscores that the fact that it doesn't matter, the foundation is irrelevant to this topic as a whole. It really speaks to who Hillary Clinton is as a person. And the Clintons will use any vehicle they can to use, bend, or just break the laws to their advantage. And it's why the Annenberg Public Policy Center had a focus group that Peter Hart, a Democrat, did the focus group and found that of all the participants, half of them gave her a 1 on the question of honesty, and no one gave her a score above a 6 on honesty. The foundation is just another vehicle for the Clintons to go and do what they want in getting to being above the law.
Mark, I'll ask you the same question. Isn't pay for play usually more subtle than someone actually saying, I'm doing this to buy influence with you in your political position?
I actually find this whole discussion amazing. So every single politician in the United States, federal, state, and local, tens of thousands of politicians, take money from donors. And many of them meet with their donors. That's exactly what GOPAC, David's organization, does. They raise money. And in fact, when Newt Gingrich ran GOPAC, he said for $10,000, you could get an uninterrupted hour with Newt and try to influence him on policy. That is our system. Now, Democrats are fighting against this system. We don't like money in politics. We want this to be transparent. We had the Disclose Act in Congress, which the Republicans said, no, we refuse to disclose our donors. The Clinton Foundation has disclosed all of their donors, and guess what? The money isn't going to Bill and Hillary Clinton. The money is going to help people all around the globe, whereas Republicans are pocketing this money. They developed this system. They support this system. I mean, do you support, David, overturning Citizens United and public financing and all the things we liberals want to get money out of the system? No! Look at Donald Trump's economic advisors. Who are they? A bunch of white male billionaires, all of whom stand to profit from his policies.
Let's let David in, please.
They're donors.
Yeah,
David, let's let David in.
Mark happened to leave out the fact that the Clintons sold access to them through the Lincoln bedroom. Now, I know that was almost 20 years ago, but heck, they allowed donors to buy their ability to go sleep in the Lincoln bedroom. So
what is Donald? What do you give your
donors? Campaign finance reform that Mark is all of a sudden championing is a bit perhaps serendipitous and he lives in a state in Virginia and is a state delegate in a state in Virginia where they have no campaign finance laws, and I don't see elected officials going to jail. In fact, Mark, if you follow in the news, you'd find out that a Republican governor didn't do anything wrong, and the Supreme Court was with him. He did meet with a donor and wasn't given any access. So
he did more than meet with them. He got gifts for his daughter's wedding and a Rolex watch.
I'm being told I have to wrap, guys. Hope maybe you can finish this off camera. I don't know. Thank you both, David Avella, Mark Levine. Thanks for joining us.
I think you need one of those NFL, whistles, referee whistle.
Mark's a CPA at the Marks Group and columnist at the Washington Post. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Patty.
So you say one of the pros is, why let another country benefit from an individual's fantastic talent if we can bring that person here?
Yeah, that pretty much hits it on the head, right? I mean, PayPal is a great example of a company that has grown to be such a great value, and it was founded by immigrants. I mean, when you look at the data, 50% of companies that are more than $1 billion in value, tech companies, have been founded by immigrants, Patty. And so, attracting immigrants, keeping them here, particularly when they're educated in this country, it's a really, really big thing. I mean, when you look at startups, Kaufman did a big study a few years ago that said between 1977 and 2005, existing companies lost 1 million jobs. Startups created 3 million jobs. So the government's trying to get startups more here. They want immigrants to be here in America. They want to give them enticement to stay in this country. So it's a big pro, and I like that.
Yeah, so job creation, another big pro. But critics disapprove of this idea of putting a value on someone's potential benefit. I mean, so many people are turned away, but a select few get to welcome that based on whatever criteria. Some people feel that's unfair.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say that. I mean, I commiserate with that, and I think it's true. It's sort of like pay to play. I mean, you have to show you own 15% of a company, and you have to have $350,000 in American investors. So it's kind of like the entrepreneurs with the money are getting like the priority to stay in this country. Some people even argue that they don't even contribute that much to overall GDP. But I got to tell you, Petty, I don't even think that's the biggest con. The biggest con to this legislation, it's not even legislation. It's a rule. It's an adjustment to an existing law that's out there. And honestly, somebody is going to contest it. I mean, Hillary Clinton supports it. Donald Trump does not support it. Obviously, it's going to go up through the Supreme Court through appeals. So think about it. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a foreign immigrant, and you want to stay in this country, are you going to take the risk of doing that when there's a good chance that it might get overturned in the courts and you might be booted out of the country depending on which ways the law goes. So until there's real legislation about this and overall immigration reform, my prediction is a lot of immigrants and a lot of investors are going to be very hesitant about taking advantage of this rule.
So this rule, when does it take effect?
Well, right now, it's just been proposed, so there's a 45-day period where people can comment on it, and then what President Obama is hoping is that it takes effect before he leaves office on January 20th. Sometime in the first quarter of 2017 is when it's expected to take effect.
And it doesn't need congressional approval?
It does not, so it's not law, which means that if Donald Trump is elected president, he could overturn it. So again, it's a big risk if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to, take that risk to stay in this country. It's not law.
Yeah. Well, all right. We'll see how it goes. Gene Marks, thank you so much.
Thanks.